Hello and welcome to this video on hamstrings. Today you will need potentially 2 yoga blocks and also a yoga strap. So let's get started. Come to make your way onto the back with your strap in hand. All the way down. Take a moment, feet hip distance apart, and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And let's dive straight into this demonstration of our first hamstring stretch. It is one of the loveliest. You have the floor supporting you and you have the strap over the arch or just below the ball of the foot to enable you to properly support this extended leg here. Left leg is bent for ease. And you can grip the strap, but try to bring a sense of dropping the shoulders heavy into the earth. And so this little sequence of about 5 or 6 hamstring stretches will just give you some ideas of what to do to lengthen this very tight area of the body, particularly if you are doing some of your high intensive workouts. Hamstrings can get super short. Also, if you're a runner as well, hamstrings really suffer. And so these stretches just aim to give you some ideas of how you can work on opening and lengthening your hamstrings. And it's worth saying that they are definitely muscles that can feel quite ouchy. These strings of muscle that run down the back of the leg. There's 3 of them and they can feel a little bit tender. So you'll see that I just usually invite just a slight softness or bending through that knee just to take some of that fire out. Those of you more open who wish something a little more, of course, could extend the left leg, and you'll feel that also as a connection through your front of your hip flexor, and you're trying to ground that foot into the floor. But for me, I find this is enough. I also find with the leg extension that I can feel that my body's starting to arch, so just so that I keep very strong from a core perspective. This bent knee just enables me to re-tilt and lengthen my spine. Take a couple more breaths on this side and then let's switch change. So release and take the strap, second side extending up to the sky, diving into what experience the left side has for you. And a couple of variations, my friends, in this is absolutely, you can just stay with legs straight up, or of course you can, if you wish, play also with extending that leg out to one side. Just make sure you're nice and heavy and weighted through your hips, so you don't want to be lifting up your pelvis. You want to stay nice and grounded here. Other options is to come back to center and just ease the leg just a little bit across the midline. That is incredibly strong. You'll feel that right into your outer leg. So no need to go too far. And if you are in this version, if you like this version, think of your hip crease and lengthen it down and away. You're pushing that thigh bone down and away, and that will really intensify it. Otherwise, stay happily here. Just giving you some options there. Again, keep checking. I always need to check that there's a softness and a length through the neck and shoulders whilst I'm holding the weight of this leg. So send the breath to where you feel the ouch. Again, soft knees. Your leg might be here, in which case just so that your lower back doesn't feel the strain. Again, just work with this bent knee version. And you could, just as a final modification for this pose, if you did feel like your leg was here and it was just not comfortable for you to be in this reclined shape, is you could scoot your hip right up against the wall. I'll just quickly demo that for you, just in case that is you. And you could just have legs up the wall, so completely supported now. The arms aren't involved, but you've got the support of the floor underneath your back. So that's just there if what I've showed you so far doesn't work. So let's take another inhale and exhale. You're just finishing off that stretch to the left. And then let's release. Pop strap to one side, a little bit of a hug, knees to chest. And you know, quite a few of our connection points to our hamstrings all come and underpin and pin into the lower back. So this is why these opportunities to hug the knees in when we've been doing these hamstring stretch is nice. It just feels like it relieves the lower back a little bit. And so you'll probably know how closely the two are linked, lower back pain and hamstrings, yeah, just because of where those connection points come in. So nice and easy. Let's gently roll up and come to transition into downward facing dog. So bring your hands shoulder distance apart, tuck your toes, lift and scoop through your belly and send your bottom nice and high. And let's start to take what I call a very fluid downward dog. So just coming straight into moving around and pedaling around. So getting into one leg, then the other. So great for hamstrings. This one is also fantastic for stretching out the calves. So you could be here with pressing one heel down to switch change, the other heel down. And just make sure shoulders aren't up around the wrists. Give yourself some space here. Yeah, so nice and broad around the neck and top of the shoulders. And then come into your downward facing dog, just nice and still for a few breaths, feet hip distance apart. So my friends with very tight hamstrings might find that they can't quite get the bottom back this far. You might feel like you're a little bit more here. And obviously that's quite a lot of pressure in the shoulders. So if that's you, bend the knees, take those hamstrings out, and then lift and tilt your sitting bones up to the sky. Press into the floor, lengthen your spine, and just let this pose be about finding length in the spine. And you're still going to get a nice stretch through the hamstrings. So rather than being here, we're here. Yeah, chest melting towards the thighs. And you're not here for long. Let's take a couple more breaths regardless of whether or not your legs are straight. Heels reaching back in space. Maybe they find the floor, maybe they don't. And then gently bring knees to the floor. And let's step your right foot forwards. This is where potentially you're going to need your blocks. So right leg forwards. Pad up your left knee if you need to, if that's a painful place for you to be on the knees. And then come and grab those blocks. Let's have them on the highest setting. Come to roll your shoulders back and lift up through your chest. Here's your nice lunge pose. So I've looked at this pose before in the hip video. But from here, we're going to take it into the hamstring stretch. So often called runner's lunge. Runner's half splits rather. And so come to ease that right leg back. Bam, in go the hamstrings. And breathe. So those of you who are tight, yes, you will need the blocks. Maybe they're a little lower. Maybe you don't need them at all if your hamstrings feel relatively open. But as always, I would start with the easier option and just focus on getting length and space and being able to breathe and support this stretch rather than feeling like you must touch the floor with your hands. Spine is long. Again, you might look like this, you might have a bent knee, that's all okay, you're still going to feel the stretch. Of course, those of you who have more openness might play with wiggling that foot a little further forwards and coming more towards a split stretch, not necessarily splits unless you are uber open, and that's a very, very easy pose for you to be in. Yeah, but you could work a little deeper and again have that support of blocks underneath your hands. So keep fueling the stretch with the breath. Hamstrings, not the nicest muscles to open, I don't find. Not as nice as those external hips. And then just ease out of this. So I tend to push quite strongly into the block and then just gently wiggle or draw that foot back. Let's take a moment, take a brief child pose again, just to release your lower spine if that's you, if you feel that pinchiness. Deep breath in, deep breath out, and then come and experience second side. Come into the runner's lunge and then come into the runner's half split. And so just because there can be that tenderness behind the back of the knee, we just want to be really careful that we don't overstretch. So hips are square. I'm trying to just ever so slightly draw this left hip crease back because that action will keep my hips nice and square rather than hitching out to the side or forwards. And another variation to show you, if it feels nice in your body, is you could progress this. Instead of being in taking this version on the knees, you could take it where you lift up the knee and your starting point might be more of a fingertip lunge, and your exhale might be that straightening of the leg here. Yeah, with heel lifted in this version. I'll give you another version in a moment. So by all means, if you feel like you want that knee off the floor and you want to play with it a little deeper, then you can progress to there. Otherwise, happily or not happily, stay here. Take another inhale and exhale. Let's ease into that leg straight away, hamstring backs off. Move your props out of the way, pick up that back knee and just pop that back foot a little closer in, and then take a forward fold. So feet a generous distance apart, soften through the knees and just let your body go. So a great stretch for the back of the legs, also getting a stretch into your spine. You may be here and that's okay. As long as you're not locking those knees back. So there's just a softness behind the knees. So we want the muscles to do the work. We don't just want to lock our pose into the joints, which would be what you were doing if knees are back. So nice and soft here. So be here and just breathe into wherever you feel, whatever you feel. If you feel that you don't like this sense of dangling, you could have hands to the waist if you wish, or hands to the back of the legs. Otherwise, if you're a little lower down, then be there. Yeah, no matter where you are, maybe a sway feels good. Also, often I quite like to bring hands to the waist and just pedal through each knee at a time. If this aggravates your lower spine, then again, please take your knees and bend them as much as you need to. Head is really heavy, neck is long. And then let's slowly roll up, and really do make this slow. Engage through your belly, start to lift up, peel up through your front ribs, just so you feel supported and your back feels supported as you come up to stand. Take a moment, roll the shoulders back. So standing super tall, take a deep breath in. Let it go, exhale. And let's step the right leg back. So my feet are on two different train tracks. Left toes completely forward facing, right toes roughly 2 o'clock on the clock. From here, start to hinge at the hips, lengthen forwards, and just bring your hands to press into the top of your left thigh. So this is also another lovely hamstring stretch. It's a little easier to lock out that knee. So just notice that, bring a sense of softness. Those of you who wish to come down a little further, of course you can. Keep trying to lengthen through the spine. So here's another opportunity for blocks. Hands to the blocks, hips nice and square. Any level of the blocks, listen to your body, do something that works for you and just puts you in that right zone between, again, not over pushing and yet feeling like you are getting a stretch out of this. Alignment here is key. There is a tendency to, with the left leg in front, to swing the hips out and come forwards with a rounded spine. So if that's you, come up a little bit more. Bring right hip forwards, left hip back, so that your torso is completely down the middle of your mat. That's where you're aiming. And really lengthen through the front of your chest. So it's not here. Yeah, just try to draw those shoulders back. So you've been here for a while. Let's scoop to lift up. Again, that connection through the belly, and then switch sides. So right foot forwards, left foot on a slightly different train track, so feet are apart. Left toes roughly to 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock, to either, again, hands to thigh or hands to the block, just making sure you set up your square hips like headlights shining forwards, and then from that place, tip forwards. And the key to setting up that real nice alignment is that the feet are apart. So if that back foot is behind you, you are going to be a little skewed off to the side. So you want to give yourself that generous space in between the feet. Once you're in, deep breath in and deep breath out, diving into second side. And the calf gets a nice stretch through in this pose too. So I'm pushing into the outer edge of my back foot and into my heel. So I'm getting a nice stretch through that left calf as well as the stretch into the right hamstring. A few more breaths. Scoop the belly. Start to rise up. Again, give yourself a moment to settle. If you just need to take a second hugging the knees into the chest just to relieve anything in the lower back, then you can. Feet grounded, nice and tall, deep breath in. Deep breath out. And then let's come to finish. One final stretch to give you for your hamstrings is to come onto your seat. Some of you will need to put a cushion, a block, anything at all underneath your sit bones. So there's a degree of literally lifting sit bones up and back, just so you get that space to tilt forwards. Again, my friends, if you're here, that's when you know that you'll need just to elevate your hips a little bit, because you want a nice tall spine. You could, in this next one, for assistance, grab your strap. So legs are out in front of me, I'm keeping them hip distance apart, my feet are flexed. I'm just popping that strap around the feet. You could bring them together if you wish. And then I'll take a nice deep breath in and a deep breath out and lengthen forwards. In yoga, we tend to cue this to have a nice long spine and chest lifted. If you want to bring this more into a spine stretch as well as hamstrings, then you would round the spine. Yeah, so that just brings in a stretch all the way down here, which feels good. Either way, hamstrings are stretching. If you don't need the strap, don't want the strap, that's okay. Hold the ankles, have hands behind you to support you, hands to feet. Again, being at a level that works, and of course, always, if lower back feels ouchy, take your stretch with bent knees. So for all of these stretches, you know, the themes, the modifications, they're always the same. So as long as you remember the things that you can do to make it work for you, that's what's important. So super strong in the hamstrings. Again, if you just need to release it a little bit and pedal out through the legs, you can. Let's take a couple more breaths. Again, any of these, be in them for as long as you wish. This video is just a bit of a demo for all of them. And then one of the nicest things to do after you've worked the hamstrings, particularly if you've just done this video and you've done one stretch after the other, is come to finish onto your back and draw your knees in to the chest and take a little rock from side to side. You'll feel how that massages a little bit again around those connection points into your lower spine. You could take a spinal twist as well if you wish. Otherwise, extend your legs out. Take your palms up. Feel how much longer, no matter how easy or hard you found those stretches, now feel how much longer and freer your hamstrings feel. So just taking a moment in stillness to acknowledge that and notice that. Deep breath in. Deep breath out, let it go. Being in this rest pose for as long as you wish. Otherwise, it's a deep breath in. Another deep breath out. Reconnecting once again to hug left knee into chest, right knee into chest, to roll over to one side and come up to a seated position. So hope you enjoyed. I hope that gives you just a few ideas of how you can stretch out your hamstrings and for some of the modifications that you can do. Thank you.